Think about the last time you slept badly. Tossing, turning, a nightmare that woke you up, a fever that left your sheets damp, a night you spent staring at the ceiling for reasons you couldn't fully name. Now think about where your cat was. If you share your sleeping space with a cat, there's a significant chance that something changed during that night, that they moved closer, that they appeared when they usually don't come to bed, that they were there when you opened your eyes at 3 a.m. in a way that felt specific, like they'd been watching. Most people who experience this attribute it to coincidence, or to the cat being restless that night, or to nothing at all. But the evidence from feline behavioral research tells a more specific story. Your cat, during your sleep, is monitoring you in ways that are more sophisticated than almost any owner realizes. And when something changes in your body, in your breathing, in the chemistry of your distress, they notice, and many of them respond. 1. They track your breathing pattern through the night. Sleep changes your physiology in ways that are continuous and detectable. As you fall from waking into light sleep and then into deeper stages, your breathing slows and deepens in a consistent pattern. Your chest movements change. Your body temperature shifts. The rhythm of your sleep is something your cat, sleeping in proximity to you, is continuously exposed to and continuously calibrated against. Cats have been observed in studies using low-light behavioral cameras during night hours to orient toward their sleeping owners at specific moments. Not random moments, but moments correlated with changes in the owner's breathing pattern. The cat that has been sleeping quietly across the room moves closer when the rhythm changes. Not always, not every change, but changes significant enough to depart from the baseline their nervous system has established for what your normal sleep sounds like. A nightmare changes breathing faster than almost any other sleep event. Fever produces specific thermal and chemical changes that alter both temperature and respiration. Sustained insomnia, the kind where you've been awake for a long time staring at nothing, eventually changes breathing patterns in ways that differ from sleep and from normal waking. Your cat knows the difference, not consciously, but their body knows your baseline, and deviation from it gets their attention. 2. They detect body temperature changes. Cats have a resting body temperature between 100 and 102.5 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than the human baseline of 98.6. This means their thermal sensitivity is calibrated in a range that allows them to detect subtle changes in the body heat of the people they sleep near. A fever elevates skin surface temperature in ways that are measurable even through minimal contact. Through a blanket, through the air above the bed, through direct contact with a hand or leg. A body in emotional distress, elevated cortisol, driving a mild increase in peripheral temperature and metabolic activity, produces a slightly different thermal profile than a body at rest. Your cat, lying against your legs or on your chest, is continuously receiving this thermal information. And when it shifts, when the body next to them becomes hotter, or when the specific combination of temperature and movement changes, the data doesn't go unregistered. There are documented veterinary and medical cases of cats persistently attending to specific areas of their owner's body in ways that preceded the owner's awareness of a problem, a mass, an inflammation, an early infection. Whether cats detect chemical or thermal signals associated with illness in these cases is not fully understood, but the behavioral pattern has been observed consistently enough to be taken seriously in the literature. 3. Nightmares produce a response that's more specific than you know. Here's the category of night experience that generates the clearest documented response from cats: nightmares and high distress dreaming. During REM sleep, the stage associated with intense dreaming, the body is relatively paralyzed, but residual motor activity still occurs. Eye movement, slight facial muscle movement, occasional vocalization, changes in breathing depth and rate. During nightmares or high-intensity dreaming, these peripheral expressions increase. Breathing becomes faster or more irregular. Sometimes people make sounds. The face moves. The body may shift. All of this is data that your cat is processing. A study observing owner cat sleep behavior using in-home cameras documented a consistent pattern. Cats who slept in proximity to their owners showed approach and monitoring behavior at moments corresponding to owner REM activity, with heightened response during events that involve vocalization or breathing changes. Several cats were observed approaching the owner's face, specifically during these moments, making light contact with their paw. The behavior we've discussed in other contexts as a wellness check. They were checking on you while you were dreaming. Subscribe here, because what comes next is the part that changes how most people see what their cat is doing during the night. Most people who have experienced their cat pressing a paw gently against their face or cheek during the night have dismissed it as the cat wanting food, or as the cat being annoying, or as nothing in particular. But the timing and context of this behavior, when studied systematically, tells a different story. Cats performing this behavior at night show it most frequently in specific conditions. When the owner's breathing has changed, when the owner is making small sounds, when the owner's body is showing signs of movement associated with disturbed sleep. Not when the owner is sleeping soundly and undisturbed. Not randomly, in correlation with a changed state. The behavior is a probe. It's a minimal contact investigation. Are you responsive? Are you okay? Can you be roused to confirm your state? In wildcat social dynamics, cats living in small groups monitor each other's condition during periods of rest. The wellness check, light contact to assess responsiveness, is a group safety behavior. Your cat is performing a version of this on you. Not because they've decided you're in danger, because the system that monitors you says something changed, and the system that checks on group members says to check. That paw on your cheek at 3 a.m. is not an accident and not a demand. It's your cat running an ancient safety protocol on the most important member of their group. 5. The cat who relocates during your bad night. Here's a subtler pattern that many people have experienced but rarely connected. You're having a hard night. You wake at some point from the nightmare, from the fever, from the 3 a.m. wakefulness that doesn't leave easily, and your cat is there. But they weren't there when you fell asleep. They were somewhere else. Their usual spot, a different part of the house, wherever they normally spend the early night hours. They moved. Something in the environment told them to move closer to you. And the thing that told them was not a sound you made or a movement you made consciously. It was the accumulation of the change signals. The breathing, the temperature, the chemistry, reaching a threshold that triggered relocation. This happens more consistently in cats who are deeply bonded with their owners. The threshold for response is lower. They're more attuned to the baseline and more responsive to deviation. A cat who is more loosely attached or who sleeps in a fully separate space may have the same capacity but a higher threshold or fewer opportunities to respond. But the capacity is not rare. It appears in behavioral literature, in veterinary accounts, and in the accounts of cat owners across demographic and cultural boundaries with a consistency that suggests it's expressing something real and common. What you can do with this knowledge, understanding that your cat monitors your nighttime state, is not just interesting. It has practical application. First, if you're having a period of poor sleep, illness, high stress, nightmares recurring over days, your cat's behavior may be reflecting it before you've consciously registered how significant the disruption is. A cat who is unusually attentive overnight, who is appearing when they normally don't, who is making more contact than usual during sleep, is observing a pattern you might not be tracking yourself. Take the signal seriously. What is your sleep doing right now? Second, creating conditions that allow your cat to be in proximity during sleep. If they're inclined, gives them the ability to respond when something changes. A cat locked out of the bedroom can't check on you. A cat who has chosen to sleep elsewhere may still appear if the signal is strong enough, but removing barriers to proximity removes barriers to the behavior. Third, and most simply, when you have a bad night and you open your eyes and your cat is there, looking at you or pressing against you or watching from the end of the bed, know what that means. They didn't come because they wanted food at 3 a.m. They came because something about you called them there. What this says about who you are to your cat, pull back to the fullest view of what we've been talking about. Your cat has a system built from learning, from exposure, from biological attunement that tracks you through the night, that knows your baseline, that registers when you deviate from it, that sometimes, in the cats who are most bonded, produces a response. This doesn't happen to objects. It doesn't happen to furniture. It happens to members of the group, the individuals whose state matters enough to monitor and whose distress triggers a response. You are, to your cat, someone whose well-being matters, not in the way you might express it with language or gesture, in the way that their nervous system has been organized around your presence, in the way that your bad night is a disruption to a system that had incorporated your well-being as a reference point. In the darkness while you sleep, your cat is paying attention to your breathing, to your temperature, to the sounds you make, and the movements you make, and the chemistry you release into the air around you. They are not performing this. They are not doing it for any reward. They are doing it because somewhere in the deep structure of a bond they've built with you, your nighttime state is something their world registers as mattering. And when it changes for the worse, they come to you. Subscribe if you want to understand what else your cat is doing when no one is watching.